You're listening to the Balanced Educator Podcast, episode number 148. Welcome to the Balanced Educator. We're your hosts, Kaylee
and Josiane from EduCalm. Our intention is to equip and empower you to feel more calm, balanced, and joyful in all aspects of your life. Hello, and welcome to the Balanced Educator Podcast. Today, we are talking about engagement. Isn't it so frustrating when a student doesn't engage in classroom learning experiences? In this episode, we're sharing our tried and true method for increasing student engagement in any classroom activity, but especially when it comes to mindfulness and social emotional learning activities. You'll leave this episode with concrete strategies that you can start using right away to get even your most reluctant learners to participate. But before we dive into the show, we want to share with you today's sponsor. Are you a teacherpreneur or a teacher that runs a side hustle? Need a website ASAP? Or maybe your website needs a little facelift? If you don't have the budget for a full-on custom design, listen up. The Styled Square creates fully customizable Squarespace website templates that are so easy to use, but more importantly, their websites are built for seamless user experience that will lead to conversion, aka making money. And who doesn't love that? Think of the templates as your website building blueprint. Grab a coffee and make the template your own. Just change the fonts, colors, and imagery, and boom, a beautiful and functional website at a fraction of the price. Isn't that just the best? To learn more about the Styled Square website templates, head to thestyledsquare.com and use our exclusive promo code to save 15%. Balanced Educator 15. Goodbye, website struggle bus. Hello, Styled Square. All right, let's dive into this. Kaylee and I are sitting here together having some tea. This is going to be fun.
Delicious tea.
Delicious tea. Okay, so just to start off, I feel like today we're talking about engagement as a whole in learning, but we are going to refer to our program more to how to engage with mindfulness in the classroom, or that made no sense. How to get students to engage or increase engagement in mindfulness activities.
Yeah. Every once in a while, we get questions from teachers like, I'm doing mindfulness in my classroom and I have a couple students that just won't engage. They're just not interested. They don't want to participate. And we always have like a specific formula that we use to say, okay, follow these steps. So we figured we should share this formula because it doesn't just work for mindfulness. It works for anything you're doing in the classroom, but it really works well using this as kind of a recipe to follow when you're using our program EduCalm. So EduCalm is a ready-to-use mindfulness and social emotional learning program for the classroom where you just have to sign in, click play, and you learn alongside your students. So you listen to a 2 or a 5-minute audio every day with your students. You create a routine with this. So every day, everyone gets to calm down, take a moment to manage their emotions, and get ready for calm and focused learning. So if you haven't already started using our program, I don't know what you're waiting for because you can start using it for free. So go to educalm.com/free and sign up to get started using our free ready-to-use resources.
Yeah. Do it now.
Yeah.
Do it now. Press pause. Do it now.
So let's talk about this formula for engagement no matter what you're doing in the classroom.
All right. So first step, super important step, is to set your own expectations as the teacher, because I know even for myself, I often have unrealistic. I'm like, I don't know. Expectations when it comes to my classroom and my students.
Especially when you're doing an activity that you're really excited about.
Yes.
So you just don't even think of the possibility that your students might not be just excited about this activity as you are. And then it can be so disheartening when you start doing it and they're kind of like wah wah about it. And you're like, but I spent so much time on this.
I know.
I got so excited about this. How do you not think it's awesome too?
And like, we have to remember that not all students can be engaged in everything. And me as a student, I am not engaged in everything that I learn or, the professional learning I have to do or whatever it may be. I'm not always 100% engaged.
Yeah.
And it's normal.
And that isn't always a problem with the thing that you're not engaging with. Like it might not be the lesson or the teacher or have anything to do with that. It might be that like you didn't sleep well last night or you are stressed about something coming up or you didn't have a good breakfast and you're hungry. I mean, hanger brain means...
I know it too well.
For those of you that don't know Josiane in person, everyone knows this about her. She has hanger issues.
Well-managed hanger issues, might I add to that.
Very important to always have snacks on hand.
100%. Yes.
It's a bit of
a
running joke in the family and friend group.
It totally is. Yeah.
So this all to say that, when you have a student that isn't engaging in something that you're doing, don't take it personally.
It's okay.
Yeah. It's
okay.
normal. It's normal.
It's totally okay. And in everything we do, we'll always have students that are not engaged.
Yeah.
It's just, it is how it is. And we have to just be okay with that as teachers. So that's the first step of it all.
Yeah. And by be okay with it, it doesn't mean not try to find solutions. It just means like not taking it personally or getting upset or like having a big emotional reaction to it.
Yeah. Yes. And then once you set your own expectations as the teacher, then it's time to set expectations with your students. Set expectations as a classroom.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
It's so important for them to know what you're expecting from them in terms of like, what is this activity going to look like, sound like, feel like? We always like to use that kind of triangle of if someone were to walk into our class while we're doing this activity, what are they going to see us doing? So that's going to look different in every activity. So, in my science class, it would be like, okay, we're doing a lab today. If someone were to walk in, what would they notice about how we are acting in the classroom? Like, what does it look like? What does it sound like? And what does it feel like? And by feel like, it's like, what is the vibe in the classroom? Like, is it calm? Is it excitable? Is it focused? Like, when they walk in and they kind of feel the energy of the room, what should they be experiencing?
That's right.
And that can really, really help just set the tone of intention with what you're doing. So your students know what you expect. And you've kind of built that together. So it isn't just you as the teacher explaining this is what it should look like, sound like, feel like. It should be created together and be very clear. So whether that's something that gets written down on a poster that gets reused often, or whether it's on the board, or however that is, it's clear, it's concise.
The key word you just said there, reuse often. Mm-hmm. And you and I sound like broken records, but also as teachers, I feel that we sound like broken records, but like, we should just be going over the expectations every time we do the activity or whatever it may be. Like repetition, go over the rules. It takes a minute. It can save you lots of minutes.
Yes. So for things that we're doing, even things that we're doing every single day. So if you have a mindfulness practice in your classroom, if you're using the EduCom program daily, we don't want to just expect that after a couple of days, our students know and have really memorized what the expectations are.
Newsflash, they don't.
They don't. Yeah. So literally every single day before pressing play on that audio or starting whatever practice you're doing, whatever it is that you have as a routine in your classroom, before you get into it, relist those expectations or ask the students to tell you what the expectations are. With my high school students, when we're listening to EduCom, before I press play, I say, okay, we're about to start our EduCom practice. Phones away, food away, no distractions. We listen quietly until the end of the audio.
One sentence.
One sentence. So it's just the repetition of what the expectations are. And as I say that, what do I see? I see my students putting their phones down. I see them closing up that bag of chips that they were eating for breakfast.
Breakfast. Ooh, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Teenagers, am I right? You know, I see them being like, oh yeah, okay, now. So it gives them kind of a second to get prepared for what's coming. And then we're ready to start and have success.
Yeah. And side note, but you can also do this in a question format, just asking them every single time, okay, someone raise your hand, tell me what the rule is or whatever.
Yeah.
So that they learn it by heart too.
Yeah. And I'm going to repeat myself again, literally every single day. Like repeat the expectations every single day for the entire year. Like it becomes a routine, and it never stops saying the expectations.
Never stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you maybe you'll see that you can slow down on having to not maybe say them every single day, but maybe every other day or once a week or whatever. But
yeah,
you have to be the broken record.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it as a teacher. Okay. And the second piece to this, which is the next step, is not just setting these expectations and never going over them again. So it's about gathering that student feedback, often offering voice and choice in these expectations in how things will be done in the classroom.
Mm-hmm. So once you've done the activity, checking in with your students. So how did that go? You know, did we meet our goals with this activity? What did you think of that? What did you notice? What was your experience like? Getting that feedback from them is so important and creates a really great connection and shows our students that we care about how they're feeling, what their experience was, and that we're ready and willing to adapt our approach to help them have more success. Because that's the point, right? We want to help them have success. We want to guide them and do what they need, but we don't know what they need unless we give them the opportunity to tell us.
Basically, we're saying we shouldn't be dictating all of this stuff to them. We should be more of like a coach for them.
Yes.
We need to guide them in finding strategies that will work for them, that will work for us, that will work for the whole group.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's just a conversation that we need to have often with our students. And we need to shift expectations if it's not currently working for the students or for you, the teacher.
Yeah.
And we need to communicate about it.
Absolutely. And the more that the new expectations or the new strategies can be built together as a team between you and your students, then the more engaged they're going to feel because they have been heard and they were part of the process of developing this strategy or developing these expectations. And so they have a lot more, skin in the game. Is that the saying?
Yeah, they're more
invested. They're more invested.
More skin in the game. Yep. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about kind of a guide to follow, and I just want to pause here for a second and say, if you were hearing walking and drinking in the background, my dog apparently decided to do a whole show during those last 10 minutes.
He wanted to be part of this podcast episode.
So just so you know what that sound was.
Tap dancing dog.
We need to cut those nails. Anyway, so now we're going to get into a little bit more specifically with mindfulness in the classroom. How can we increase engagement? So again, just want to repeat that it is normal that not all students engage in all activities, including mindfulness. It'll happen for sure. It's always happened in my classrooms that, there were a couple that were less interested.
Interestingly enough, though, and this is so important to point out, is that oftentimes the ones that look disengaged are actually gaining a lot from the practice.
100%. I've seen it.
I've seen it every single year. There's always been a student that, I was frustrated, annoyed that throughout the year, they just never seemed to engage. I was always having to remind them what the expectations were and just felt like, I didn't have success with this student. And then those were always the students that at the end of the year would give me feedback saying how impactful this program was for them. So that really taught me that looks can be deceiving and that the only way to know what's going on for them is to have a discussion with them. We can't assume anything.
It is so true. And with it's just some kids just don't look
like
they're paying attention.
Yeah.
But they are.
And I think it's important to remind too that a mindfulness practice, the practice of mindfulness, is paying attention to the present moment on purpose. So oftentimes when we think of mindfulness, we have this image in our mind of like sitting cross-legged in that meditation pose, not moving, eyes closed, looking serene. But that's not actually the definition of mindfulness. Mindfulness can
the reality.
Nor the reality, exactly. Mindfulness can be practiced while walking, while cooking, while eating, while learning, while dancing. So if a student isn't sitting still, that does not mean they're not engaging and practicing the mindfulness piece. It just means that their body needs to move. Now, of course, and we'll get into this, that doesn't mean they should be disrupting others because we don't want to be disrespectful or pulling someone else out of their mindfulness practice. But I think it's important to just adjust our expectations of what mindfulness looks like, especially with kids and especially with little kids that are jittery and move a lot.
Yes.
So mindfulness is paying attention to the present moment on purpose.
And we talked earlier about establishing expectations. And this is exactly what you're saying right now, managing your own expectation as a teacher, but then also creating those expectations. What should it look like, feel like, and sound like? And you already gave an example of this, so I'm just going to gloss over this part where you said, we put our phones away, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
The other thing that we haven't talked about too much yet is the modeling piece, which is so important.
Yes. And that's why with our program, EduCom, that's not the only reason, that's one of the reasons, but with our program, the intention is that teachers practice with their students. Not only is that because teachers need this practice just as much as their students, they need this moment of self-care throughout the day. They need to have the time to regulate their emotions so that they can have more patience for their students throughout the day. But it's so important to model this practice. For most of our students, this is a brand new thing. They don't often see people practicing mindfulness. You might have some students in your class that their parents practice mindfulness and they know what it is, but the majority of students, they're not seeing this modeled in their everyday life.
And I think also just them seeing that it's important to you too will give them more respect for the practice and engage them more in the practice.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, they're looking to you for cues of like, what should this look like? How should I be behaving? So we need to model that.
Now, some students will explicitly say things like they don't want to participate, or they might be disrupting others during the practice, even though you have set your expectations and everything, like in everything else in the classroom, right? Yeah. And so with that student, we need to create expectations of what will this mindfulness time look like for them if they don't actually want to participate. First of all, we are not going to force them to participate. The fun thing with EduCalm is that even though they may not be participating, and I've got air quotes here, they're still there. They're still hearing the audio. They're still learning so much more than we think. But we don't want to force them to participate because that's just going to create more friction. So what can we say if a student is, maybe bothering others during the practice or telling you that they don't want to participate? What can we tell them?
Yeah. So first thing, I would kind of back up a tad and say that when we're talking about our expectations in the classroom, we like to always talk about, you and I, we always like to also include what are the expectations for if you don't want to practice today. Yeah. Sometimes you just might not be in the mood to practice mindfulness, and that's okay. But it doesn't make it okay to disturb others. So we talk about what does it look like, sound like, feel like if you're not participating. So we'll say, and if you don't feel like participating, that's okay. You can just sit there quietly with your head down or take a little nap, or this is a great time where you just don't have to do any work. You can just relax quietly. Even if you don't want to participate, this is just time for you to be in your little bubble and have some alone time during your often busy day.
Yet being very respectful of your classmates who do want to participate.
Exactly. So Yeah, this is a quiet time, whether you're participating or not. Now, next step, when we are dealing with a student that's under, we've explained these expectations, but they're still having a hard time not disturbing others. Oftentimes, as teachers, we kind of want to go straight to discipline mode. Like, you shouldn't be doing that here. Like, this is wrong. You're disturbing others.
We're discouraging you from doing that.
We are discouraging you from doing that. So what if we take sort of a coach approach and talk
Coach
to them?
approach.
Coach approach.
Have fun.
Because we are learning mindfulness with them. This is a process that we're doing all together. So let's talk about like what's holding you back from practicing. Like, why is it that it's hard for you to sit still? Because oftentimes the reason we think they're not sitting still will be different than the reason that they say they're not sitting still. Maybe they're not able to sit still and they're making noise because they just have way too much energy in the mornings and they physically can't sit still. Well, then as the coach, we can say, okay, so if it's hard to sit still, what would be a strategy we could use to help you get that energy out before that practice? Or what would be a way that you could move without disturbing others? And you come up with a solution together. That's just so much more impactful than saying, you're doing this wrong.
Yes.
You need to sit still.
Yeah.
Because then they're pushing back rather than us working together to help them find a solution to their struggle.
And another way that you can do this exact same thing, another strategy, is to have a discussion after the mindfulness practice with the students, asking them what they noticed. And this is often when other students will raise their hand and say, well, I couldn't, enjoy my practice because someone kept kicking my chair or something. And then that's when we can say, okay, and how did that make you feel? And so that person who was making that noise can kind of just hear it from the students and not from the teacher.
Yeah. So they're kind of empathizing a bit more or hearing it from kind of a, oh, okay, I didn't realize how my actions were impacting others. So they can, rather than them being scolded, they're being shown how what they were doing was impacting others.
And yes, this is not a time, even like, if the student says, oh, this student was doing this, it's not time for us as teachers to start disciplining.
No.
It's a time to, ask questions and then thank them for sharing. That's all.
Yeah. So it would look like, the student that says, I had a hard time focusing because so-and-so was kicking the back of my chair. And then you could say, okay, and how'd that make you feel? Well, it made me feel really frustrated because I didn't get the chance to have this relaxation time and I really wanted this relaxation time. Okay, thank you for sharing. And then you move on. We're not pointing out that one student that was making noise and making them feel embarrassed in front of the class. Not at all. It's just giving everyone the chance to share their feelings.
We do not make an example out of a student.
No.
If we're seeing that this is like a problem that keeps happening, like say every single time this one student is kicking the chair or whatever of this other student, like something, an unwanted behavior, I guess. If it's persistent, that's when maybe we take them aside and have a private conversation with them to see what's going on. And again, approach it from a place of how can I help you? Not you need to stop doing this, because some kids can't stop doing things like that. They can't. They need supports and strategies in place, whatever that might mean.
Yeah, exactly. So the question could be, hey, I've noticed that every day during our mindfulness practice, you are, knocking you're kicking the chair of the person in front of you. How come? And giving them the chance, just a really open question, what's the reason?
Not making them feel bad about it, just having that open conversation.
Yeah. And oftentimes we're going to be surprised by the answers, and then we can find a solution together.
That's right. Another great strategy, we talked about the modeling piece earlier, but a great one is also, as the teacher, explaining to your students how important this time is for you as the teacher. If you show them I need this time because I become a better teacher, a more patient teacher, I enjoy teaching my lessons more after I've had this calm time, that benefits them too, and probably gives them more of a reason to follow expectations during practice.
Another question I really like to ask students. So, with the Educom program, we kind of suggest the formula of repeating the expectations, doing the practice together where you're modeling it with your students, and then having a discussion or a more class meeting afterwards. And a question that I really like to ask is, how does this practice support you? Or what are you learning from this practice? Or how is this helpful in your everyday life? And having students voice how whatever it is that they're learning or doing during this practice, how it's impacting them and being a positive influence in their life really helps them to sort of see and solidify, what, it is important. Even if I don't feel like doing it today, it is important because it does teach me things that help me to manage my emotions and help me to feel more calm, help me to focus, help me to be a better learner, help me to be a better friend. And whenever I do those sharing things, I always answer my own question first to kind of, again, model.
So smart.
Yeah. And so, I really like to talk from the teacher point of view, and be honest, like this morning, I felt really rushed. I woke up a little bit late. I was feeling quite stressed when I came to work, and I'm not the best version of myself as a teacher when I'm stressed. So I really appreciated this practice today. I'm feeling more calm than I did before. And I'm ready to be a good teacher for you today.
I love that.
Yeah. So, working all those things in.
I love that. And we're going to share with you one last strategy that we find super, super, super useful when you're finding that, a student is having a really hard time engaging or is bothering other students. I feel like this one is specifically really good for like if there's a student that just can't stop doing something that bothers someone else.
Yeah.
Is to experiment with different positions, like where they'll sit, if they'll lay down. If like one that works really well with the young kids is putting them in crocodile pose, which is they lay on their bellies and put their forehead on their hands kind of thing, so that they're kind of like in a little bubble to themselves so that they can't see what the others are doing.
Yeah.
With older kids, asking them to do the same thing, but on their desk, like hiding their heads in their arms kind of thing.
So you're just kind of stacking one hand on top of the other and putting your forehead down onto the backs of your hands.
So that they're really into their own little world. Mm-hmm. And even like it could be laying down on the back, looking up at the ceiling. Like there's different ways you can experiment. And I just found that throughout the years doing this with different groups, like some groups really benefited from sitting a certain way.
Yeah.
And others didn't. Like it just depended on the group. But I had one group when I taught grade 1 that the crocodile pose was like, it changed everything for mindfulness in the morning.
Yeah. I had a group that was insanely chatty teaching grade 6.
That's a lot of middle school. Hey?
Yeah. And it was like that was the bane of my existence this year. They were amazing kids, so much energy, so fun in so many ways, but getting them to stop talking for more than 3 seconds was next to impossible. So with the mindfulness practice, I really had to get creative. And how can I create the environment that makes it easier for them to not chat with their friends. So we experimented with everything. And one thing that just really worked well was keeping half the class at their desks. So every second student would move away from the desk and go sit at the carpet. And the other ones would stay at their desk. So we would kind of alternate groups. So it just broke them up a bit. So they weren't right next to someone. But if we were to all sit at the carpet, then they were all way too close together. So just breaking them up within the class. And they liked sitting on the carpet. And then I gave them the opportunity to select where they sat. So that I have a couple kids kind of like hiding under a table because they really wanted that to be in their own little bubble. A couple kids that would sit on cushions or whatever. And I, of course, had to come up with expectations for this as well. So, okay, what does it look like when we're getting to our spots on the carpet in an efficient way so it doesn't turn into this super long transition?
Oh, transition.
Yeah. But it was something that led us to having more success. And yeah, I experimented with everything with that group. And And then some things would work for a couple weeks and then they would stop working and then we'd start with something new, just like everything else we do in the classroom.
Exactly.
You just have to experiment and create routines.
And don't be afraid to experiment.
Yeah. If it crashes and burns, that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's just another day in the classroom. It's all good.
Try again tomorrow.
Exactly. And this is just making me think too, like even you as the teacher to sit yourself in different spots could be really helpful. Because sometimes a student, as soon as they have a teacher close by, don't always sit beside them because then it becomes, obvious.
Yeah.
But, maybe you move around in the classroom and that's helpful too.
Yeah. Also, sometimes, I'm just going to throw this out there too. Sometimes as the teacher, when you're having a day where the kids are really silly that day, really chatty, they're just not settling down no matter what, you're starting to feel frustrated. Sometimes you just have to be like, you know what? It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to let them chat and I'm still going to have my mindfulness practice. Even if there's a little bit of noise and they're chatting and not following instructions for 5 minutes or 3 minutes while I'm doing and I'm benefiting from this practice, so be it. It's just one day. Maybe tomorrow everything. We'll have more success. Like, give yourself the grace sometimes to just appreciate the practice.
Another option, mindful movement. In EduCalm, there are many mindful movement videos. And if you're feeling that energy in your class, say, you know what, we're not doing an audio this morning. We're doing a mindful movement video.
Yeah.
Switch it up.
Yeah.
Keep them on their toes.
Yeah. And also mindfulness can be fun. Like it doesn't have to be
fun.
It doesn't have to be serious all the time. I think sometimes it's another perspective that we have talking about our expectations as teachers. Like we think that it needs to be this like serene, like serious practice. Like it's okay if we giggle a little bit. It's okay if someone farts during the practice and everyone laughs. Like it'll happen. It's no big deal. Like laugh it off. We got a laughing practice today.
There you go. There you go.
All right. So let's review the kind of like format, the formula we have one more time so that we can
I'll make it quick.
Make sure it's fresh.
So first is to set your own expectations as the teacher, and then to set expectations as a group. Repeat them every single time.
Yeah.
Repetition is key. And then gathering student feedback, offer voice and choice. And the idea is to just be their coach and finding strategies that will work for all.
Yes.
So that's the general guide here.
Yeah. All right. Well, we hope that this is helpful for you in however you're trying to get your students to get more engaged, whether that's with math, science, reading, or mindfulness and social emotional learning. Now, if you haven't already signed up for the free trial to EduCalm, go do it. That is your exit ticket. We have these amazing free resources for you to use right in your classroom. You do not have to be the expert to use this program. You just log in, press play, learn alongside your students. We even have an introductory video that goes through this process we explained today, where we teach the students and you in this introductory video what mindfulness is, what the expectations are, what to do if you're not feeling super jazzed about practicing mindfulness. We talk about that expectation of even if you don't want to participate, just sit quietly. That's okay. It's all laid out for you. Zero prep. So go check it out. educalm.com/free.
All right. This was fun.
This was fun.
It's been a while.
Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed this episode and gained value from it, please share it with someone that you think would enjoy it too. Have an awesome week.
Bye.